Today we'll be looking at Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. and the inspirations for the 21st century. And I think that all of you will take great pleasure in being able to expand your knowledge of what Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. has contributed to not only our common landscape, but also to urban design, to park design, and to regional planning. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you the Executive Director of the National Building Museum. Chase Rynd is celebrating 10 years as Executive Director, and we very much appreciate that the National Building Museum is hosting this event in this fantastic space, the old U.S. Pension Building, if you don't know. Please welcome Chase Rynd.
Thank you, Jack. I am absolutely delighted to welcome all of you this morning for today's really important event celebrating Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. This symposium relates directly to the National Building Museum's mission, which is not only to celebrate the built environment, but also to emphasize its impact on our lives. Founded by an act of Congress, the National Building Museum is the country's only cultural institution dedicated to architecture, planning, engineering, and landscape architecture. We as a group spend virtually every hour of the day in the built world, our homes, train stations, offices, yes, indeed, even in museums. And the shape and form of all those places reflect and affect how we live. Architects, interior designers, landscape architects, planners dedicate their professional lives to shaping the built world. Indeed, Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. spent his professional life doing just that. This symposium, the first of two, celebrating Olmsted Jr., assembles scholars and experts from around the country to explore the legacy of Olmsted Jr., who often stands in the shadow of his famous father and remains largely overlooked outside of his profession. But as you'll hear through the course of the day, Olmsted Jr.'s achievements are numerous and include establishing the profession of urban planner, playing a critical role in the development of Washington, D.C. and other cities across the United States, and advocating for the integration of parks into the built environment in new ways. I applaud the National Association for Olmsted Parks and its executive director, Iris Gestram, for recognizing Olmsted Jr.'s important contributions to our built world as landscape architect, as leading 20th century urban and regional planner, as a visionary leader in environmental planning and conservation, as an educator, as a mentor. I'm quite certain by the end of the day, you will all have a greater understanding and a much greater appreciation of Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Iris Gestram. Iris?
Thank you, Chase. Okay. This is good. Good morning. On behalf of the National Association for Olmsted Parks, thank you for joining us. Today, we are here to explore the work of Frederick Law Olmsted Jr., whose vast legacy has shaped not only our cities and regions, but how we live and how we plan, design, and how we teach about our natural and built environment. Today, sadly, we also remember one of NEOP's dearest and greatest supporters, our trustee, Caroline Laughlin, who passed away on Monday. Caroline was a font of knowledge on the over 6,000 projects of the Olmsted firm, and often she would caution us, there is always more than you think. And it is not just the number of Olmsted projects, it is their vast scope and the transformative visions that now shape our country and our quality of life. With this symposium, we hope to bring the legacy of Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. back to all of you who design, maintain, preserve, and fight for these exceptional places that the Olmsted firm left for us. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of those who have supported this symposium. It is a great pleasure to welcome today Frederick Law Olmsted Jr.'s grandson, Stephen Gill, and his wife, Margaret. Stephen and Margaret have been vital supporters, and it is thanks to their generous support that we are able to explore the legacy of Stephen's beloved grandfather today. An important part of today's event, of course, is our host, the National Building Museum, who provided this really beautiful venue for us. And from the very beginning, Scott Kratz and Paul Kilmer and Richard Lucas, who is a former Building Museum employee, were really very critical in shaping this event, and I'd like to particularly thank them. And Paul, with Leah Reich and Emma Fila, have worked with us literally at every step of this event to make today's symposium possible. So thank you, Chase, and thank you to your staff for your incredible support. So. I would also like to acknowledge the members of the Planning Committee who are in the audience today. Arlene Levy, Tom Lipke from the Commission of Fine Arts, John Christensen, Tim Manel, Christy O'Hara, one of our trustees, Ryan Schertzinger from APA, and also Ethan Carr, Charles Beveridge, and Charles Birnbaum from the Cultural Landscape Foundation, who have helped guide the planning. And clearly, an event like this cannot happen without the generous support of our partners and sponsors. And I'd like to thank the East Bay Regional Park District, the Trust for the National Mall, the American Society of Landscape Architects, the American Planning Association, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, the Commission of Fine Arts, and the National Park Service for their generous and critical support. And as you know, unfortunately, we had to cancel tomorrow's tour because of the government shutdown, and we are very sorry about that. Luckily, we can thank the All Hallows Guild at the National Cathedral, and they have made it possible for all of you who would like to go to the cathedral today at 10 o'clock to take a tour. And so special thanks to the All Hallows Guild for making this possible at the last minute. And again, everyone who's here is invited, and it will be at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And we are also very pleased that we have a number of students in the audience today, and I would like to thank the sponsors who provided scholarships for this next generation of professionals to attend today. And I'd also like to ask all of you to reach out and make sure that the students have a great networking and educational experience. With that, I'd like to ask our sponsors, the Planning Committee, and our partners to please stand, and please join me in a round of applause for everybody.